العلم قال الله قال رسوله قال الصحابة هم أولو العرفان. هذا الدين الصحيح، قال الله قال رسوله قال الصحابة.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله إله الأولين والآخرين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله إمام المتقين وقائد الغر المحجلين، مدح المتفقهين في الدين، صلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا دائما إلى يوم الدين. ورضي الله عن آله الطاهرين وصحابته الطيبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، حياكم الله ومرحبا بالجميع. This is our fifth sitting going through كتاب الصيام من بلوغ المرام من أدلة الأحكام لإمام الحافظ أحمد بن علي بن حجر العسقلاني رحمه الله تعالى. And we left off on the 19th حديث. فليتفضل الأخ القارئ وفقه الله والسامعين يقرأ لنا من حيث وقفنا.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، اللهم اغفر لنا ولشيخنا ولوالديه ولمشايخه وللسامعين. قال الإمام الحافظ أحمد بن علي بن حجر الأسقلاني رحمه الله: وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب فليتم صومه، فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. متفق عليه. وللحاكم: من أفطر في رمضان ناسيا فلا قضاء عليه ولا كفارة، وهو صحيح. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said: whoever forgets while fasting and eats or drinks should complete his fast, for it is Allah who has fed him and given him drink. Al-Hakim has: whoever breaks his fast forgetfully does not have to make up for the fast nor expiate for it.
نعم. نبدأ إن شاء الله تعالى explaining the wordings of the hadith as usual, and then we'll go through the ahkam that are connected to the hadith. فأبي هريرة رضي الله عنه, he said that the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said: من نسي. ونسي يعني نسيان هو ذهول القلب عن شيء معلوم. Nisyan, it means the heart's distraction from something that is known. That is what Nisyan means, من نسي. And the asl is being forgetful. It does not diminish a person because it's part of human nature. If it was a reason for being something that's dispraiseworthy or diminishing, then we will not be excused for it. As we will find and we'll see inshallah ta'ala, forgetfulness is from the causes or reasons for a person to be excused. فقال من نسي وهو صائم. The واو here هو واو الحال, which indicates the circumstance, meaning he forgot whilst fasting and ate and drank. And this يعني من الظاهر الحديث, it shows that even if this forgetfulness was repeated, it will not break his fast. Okay? Because the breaking of the fast or the exclusion of one is connected to nisyan. So if it's the case that he forgot more than once in the day and he ate or drank, he is still excused because of a principle in قال الفقهية: الحكم يدور مع علته وجود وعدم. The ruling revolves around its cause in both its presence and absence. فقال من نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب. So he ate or drank. And is there a difference between if you ate a lot or ate a small amount, or drank a lot or drank a small amount? لا فرق. Because in the hadith, the wordings are unrestricted. فأكل أو شرب. And there's also another narration, أخرجه أحمد, of Ishaq, that she was with the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, when a bowl of tharid, a dish of bread soaked in broth, was brought to her and she ate it all. And then after she remembered she was fasting. So it was said to her, you've remembered now that you're full. بعدما شبعت. For the Messenger ﷺ said to her, أتم صومك فإنما هو رزق ساقه الله إليك. Complete your fast, for it is only sustenance that Allah has provided for you. So if a person had a whole meal, even desserts, and they were in a state of forgetfulness, هذا لا يؤثر. It does not impact, it does not nullify their fast. So whether it is a small amount or a large amount, it does not matter. The ruling is connected to being forgetful. Or Ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentioned that hadith, it refutes those who differentiate between eating a little and eating a lot. فقال من نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب فأكل أو شرب. هنا مسألة ثانية from the wordings of this hadith, and that is that if a person remembers that he is fasting after the food has settled in his mouth, is he required to expel it out? Is he required to spit it out? Naam, he's required to spit it out. There's a difference between if it's in his mouth and if he swallowed it. If he ate or drank and he swallowed it out of forgetfulness, there's nothing upon him. As for if he ate and drank out of forgetfulness and he realized and remembered whilst the food or the drink is in his mouth, he has to spit it out immediately. فمن نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب is a ruling connected to just eating and drinking. In the hadith in front of us, it says فأكل أو شرب. What if someone fell into another nullifier of fasting out of forgetfulness? Is he excused as well? لا. نعم, he's excused. Because the other narration the brother he read, للحاكم من أفطر في رمضان ناسيا فلا قضاء عليه ولا كفارة. The one who breaks his fast in the month of Ramadan out of forgetfulness, which indicates the ruling is not specific to just eating and drinking. لكن خصص الأكل والشرب. The reasoning why in this hadith of Abu Hurairah, in this narration, that it specifies eating and drinking is من باب التغليب. Okay, من باب التغليب. Because it's more common that a person eats and drinks out of forgetfulness. It's not common that a person مثلا has intimacy out of forgetfulness. فهي mention it out of باب التغليب, ليس من باب التخصيص. وأن principle فرد من أفراد العام بحكم العام لا يخصصه. Okay, the specification of eating and drinking in this narration is based on what is most common. It does not imply exclusivity. And this shows المفهوم المخالفة ما نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب. By implication, we understand the opposite. If a person eats or drinks متعمدا, intentionally, then the fast is broken. And this is by consensus. Then he said عليه الصلاة والسلام فليتم صومه. فليتم صومه. The lam in فليتم is لام الأمر. Okay, فعل مضارع دخلت عليه لام الأمر, which indicates obligation. But this is a command. A command, an asl fil command indicates obligation, as we mentioned many times. So this is the evidence that his fast is valid, because he's commanded to complete it, as if he has not eaten or drunk. Rather, it was sustenance provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's no sin upon him. Then he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, فَإِنَّمَا أَطْعَمَهُ اللَّهُ وَسَقَاهُ. That it is Allah who has fed him and given him this drink. And this shows, or this negates al-ithm, that the person negates sin and accountability. فَتَأْوِيل يَحْتَاج إلى تأويل. to say that his fast is invalid is, as some they say, إِنَّمَا أَطْعَمَهُ اللَّهُ وَسَقَاهُ. The meaning of it is that he's not sinful. Lakin he still has to make up that fast. And that's an interpretation that's weak. فهذا تأويل يحتاج إلى تأويل. فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. The word إنما, it's حصر. It shows that it is Allah, يعني Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one that exclusively made him forget. Okay? And He has given him that food and drink. And this is from His kindness subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy for His servants. فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. If a person sees another person eating and drinking during the day of Ramadan, is it obligatory upon him to remind him? If you see someone eating and drinking, and perhaps he's eating or drinking out of forgetfulness, is it obligatory upon you to remind him? There's two opinions among the scholars. The first is it's obligatory. This is what Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz or Sheikh Salih ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah have chose, and this is the more correct opinion, because the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi, فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه." When you see a wrong, to change it with your hand. If you're not able to, then with your tongue. And if you're not able to, then to hate it with your heart. But this is a munkar, right? Eating in the day of Ramadan. And that's the more correct opinion. Another opinion is it's not obligatory to remind him, because they say, you know, with certainty he ate or drank out of forgetfulness, for he did not commit a sin at that time. You know that Allah Azza wa Jal has provided him with food and drink. Like, that's a weaker opinion. Just give me 1 minute, inshallah ta'ala. Now, as I was mentioning, ikhwata, that's in regards to the wordings of the hadith. وَلِلْحَاكِمْ مَنْ أَفْطَرَ فِي رَمَضَانَ أَسْيًا فَلَا قَضَى عَلَيْهِ وَلَا كِفَارَةٍ indicates that whoever breaks the fast forgetfully, with any act that breaks the fast, is not required to make up the fast, as we mentioned before, such as intimacy and other nullifiers which we'll take or we'll learn today, inshallah ta'ala. As for the ahkam connected to this hadith, the first mas'ala is that the hadith in this chapter, it indicates the one who drinks or eats forgetfully does not invalidate their fast, nor is there any expiation or compensation that is required, and al-kafar. And this is the opinion of majority including the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Shafi rahimahullah. The reasoning being is because number one of the hadith in this chapter, number two, the narration of Hakim, where he said, فَلَا قَضَى عَلَيْهِ وَلَا كَفَّارَ. And number three, because it's in agreement with the verse, وَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاهٌ فِيمَا أَخْطَأْتُمْ بِهِ وَلَكِنْ مَا تَعَمَّدَتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. There is no blame upon you for that which you have done unintentionally. And other verses where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. And it's mentioned in the hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَقَدْ فَعَلْتُ, that He has answered this dua. The verse, O our Lord, do not hold us accountable if you forget or make a mistake. And a principle that is established and repeated by the fuqaha, أن ترك المأمور لا يعذر فيه بالنسيان والجهل لا بد من قضائه وإن كان الإثم يسقط وأما فعل محظور فيعذر فيه بالجهل والنسيان. That neglecting a commanded act is not excused by forgetfulness or ignorance. Rather, it must be made up. Even if the sin is waved off, it must be made up. As for committing a prohibited act by ignorance or forgetfulness, then this is excused. Remember this principle, ikhwata. Neglecting a commanded act, a command, okay, is not excused by forgetfulness or ignorance. He has to make it up. He doesn't have a sin upon him, but he has to make it up. As for if you commit a prohibited act out of ignorance and forgetfulness, then you're excused. I'll give an example. If two people are praying, one person prayed and he forgot to do wudu. He forgot to do ablution. And the other one prayed and he forgot that he had najasa, impurity on his fob. Then after the prayer, both of them, they realized that they prayed forgetfully of the situation. Out of the two people, whose prayer is valid? The second one is valid and the first is not, because of the qa'idah I mentioned. For the one who prayed without wudu, and he forgot that he did not have wudu and he prayed, his prayer is not valid. Why? Because this is a command to pray with wudu. Okay. As for the other one who forgot he had impurity on his fob and prayed, his prayer is valid. Okay, because removing the impurity is from that which is prohibited. You need to stay away from. For neglecting a commanded act is not excused by forgetfulness or ignorance, and it has to be made up. As for committing a prohibited act by ignorance or forgetfulness, it is excused. And that's why the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "Man nama ani salati aw nasiyaha falyusalliha idha dhakaraha, wa la kafarata laha illa dhalik." The Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, the one who slept and missed his prayer or forgot the prayer, then let him pray it as soon as he remembers. For forgetting a commanded act, it doesn't waive off the action, meaning you have to make it up. Okay. Now, but that's the opinion of majority. Opinion of majority, if someone ate or drank whilst fasting out of forgetfulness, then he completes his fast and his fast is valid. He does not have to make it up. The other opinion, they say that rather his fast has been invalidated and he has to make it up. And this is the view of Imam Malik rahimahullah. And they mention some reasons. The first reason they mention is because the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, it does not mention, doesn't specify Ramadan. So they say it should be interpreted as referring to voluntary fasting. And this is answered or argued and refuted by the fact that in that same hadith, the Messenger alayhi salatu said, "Man nasiya wa huwa sa'im." As we mentioned the qa'idah many times, nakira fi siyaq ash-shart ta'um. This is a indefinite word, sa'im, in a context of being conditional, because the sentence starts with man. Okay, so it's a conditional sentence. For a qa'idah, a principle which we mentioned many times before, this indicates generality, so it includes every type of fasting. Also, the narration after it of Hakim, من أفطر في رمضان ناسيا فلا قضاء عليه ولا كفارة, which is explicit and clear, where it mentions Ramadan. The second evidence they bring, that they say that this person who ate or drank forgetfully in the month of Ramadan on a day during Ramadan, that his fast is invalid and he has to make up the fast. They say because this hadith is not a hadith that is mutawatir, min hadith al-ahad. And they have a qaida where they say إن خبر الواحد إذا جاء بخلاف القواعد العامة لم يعمل به or لم يعمل به. They have a principle that a single narrator hadith that contradicts general principles is not to be acted upon. Al-Khabar al-Ahad, as you all know in Mustalah Hadith, is of three types. Either it's al-Gharib, al-Aziz, or Mashhur. It's basically that the narrators of the Hadith are few. It has not reached the point of being mutawatir. Either the narrator is one or two or three, so long that it has not reached where it is a point where it's considered mutawatir, widespread. But they have a principle where they say if a hadith is a single narrator, it's min al-ahad, and it contradicts general principles, then it is not to be acted upon. Okay? Because the general principle is eating and drinking breaks the fast, right? That's one of the evidences of points that they bring. And this is كما قال Imam Shawkani rahimahullah, this is incorrect. Because the hadith is a qaida mustaqilla fi siyam. It's an independent principle regarding fasting. And he said if the door was open to rejecting authentic hadith in this manner, then very little will remain from that hadith, right? Anyone could reject what they wish. Another evidence that they bring, Imam Malik, they say the person is obligated to make up the fast, and the fast is invalidated if they ate or drank out of forgetfulness, because abstaining from things that break the fast is a pillar of fasting. Okay? Is a pillar of fasting. And these things are the opposite of fasting. And abstaining from them is a pillar of fasting, similar to someone who forgets a unit, a rak'ah in his prayer. He has to make it up. Sah? For Imam Malik, he gives that same qiyas. He interpreted فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ in the hadith, for let him complete his fast, to mean let him complete his abstinence from things that break the fast. Lakin he still has to make it up. However, this is answered by the fact هو خلاف الظاهر وتأويل يحتاج إلى دليل والأصل الحمل اللفظ على ظاهر. This contradicts the apparent meaning and an interpretation that requires evidence. It's an interpretation that requires evidence. And the principle is to interpret the word according to its apparent meaning. Also, the Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam commanding to complete the fast, فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ, as we mentioned this principle many times, the wordings, if it is بِخِطَابِ الشَّرْعِ, it has to be interpreted according to the meaning of the Sharia. Right? فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ, the meaning of Sawm, fasting in the Sharia, in the Shar'i meaning, is how we take the meaning. Meaning, his fast is valid. He completes his fast. It doesn't mean just abstaining, which is the linguistic meaning. But we mentioned that principle many times before. A word can come in its linguistic meaning, or customary meaning, or in a Shar'i meaning. If we see in the text where it is in the context of the Sharia, Messenger Ali said this, Allah Azza wa Jalla said this, then we take the meaning to be its meaning in the Sharia. لِيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ, we can't interpret it to be its linguistic meaning as Imam Malik does. Like we interpret it to be the Shar'i meaning. Imam al-Mulaqi rahimahullah, he made an excuse for Imam Malik and he said perhaps the hadith has not reached Imam Malik. Shahid, the more correct opinion, is that a person, if he ate or drank out of forgetfulness in the day of Ramadan, his fast is valid and he continues fasting the rest of the day and he does not have to make up that fast. That's the first mas'ala that we take from the ahkam pertaining to this hadith. The second mas'ala is, we learn here now from this hadith that doing a nullifier intentionally and knowingly, that is what invalidates the fast. So from the conditions for your fast to be invalid when falling into a nullifier is not merely just falling into a nullifier, lakin it has to be intentionally. And the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام said, عفي عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكرهوا عليه. My ummah has been pardoned from ignorance and forgetfulness and being forced. If a person forgetfully breaks the fast, if a person forgetfully breaks his fast, he eats bread مثلا during Ramadan, as that might be the habit. For example, someone may eat bread and tea after Asr prayer normally, and then after he remembered he was fasting, and this does not affect his fast, according to the majority, as we said, except Imam Malik. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان ولكن من شرح بالكفر صدر فعليهم غضب من الله لهم عذاب عظيم. If Allah Azza wa Jalla has lifted off the ruling of kufr, as in this verse in Surah An-Nahl, when being forced, then what is the case of other than that? Allah Shak has more of a priority to be lifted off if you're forced, right? So this shows three things, ya ikhwat. What are the conditions that these nullifiers break your fast if you fall into a nullifier? Number one, that he did it whilst in remembrance of his fast. If he drank or ate forgetfully, it does not break the fast. Number two, he did it willingly. As we're going to see the hadith that's going to come after, the next hadith. So for example, if a person is driving, his windows open, a lot of dust blew from the wind, and it went in his mouth, does it break his fast? It doesn't break his fast, because he did not do it willingly. And it was not intentional. Another example, someone who has a wet dream, that does not break his fast, because it wasn't intentional, it wasn't willingly. And the third condition is that he did it with knowledge that it is a nullifier. Okay, and ignorance can be in one of two things: ignorance of the time, like eating after Fajr, but he thought it was nighttime, or ignorant of the ruling without negligence, like someone who's new to Islam, for example. He didn't know, for example, that injections that put certain injections break your fast. He was ignorant of the ruling, and he had an injection. This does not have an effect on his fast. His fast is valid, and he does not have to make it up or give any kafar. So these are the three conditions, okay? The three conditions of falling into, of your fast being broken, falling into a nullifier, is number one, he did it whilst in remembrance of his fast. Number two, he did it willingly. And number three, he did it with knowledge that it is a nullifier. The third mas'ala that we take connected to this hadith is that it shows us from the mufattirat is eating and drinking. From that which breaks the fast is eating and drinking. وَالْمُفَطِّرَاتِ إِخْوَةً, these are things that are proved with evidence. If done by the fasting person, it invalidates their fast. And they have to make up that fast. Okay? And the scholars have differed in regards to how many nullifiers of fasting there are. Like in that which is considered usul mufattirat, the foundational nullifiers, that which is emphasized in the text, are three, which is eating, drinking, and intimacy. Eating, drinking, and intimacy. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَالْآنَ بَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وكلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل. So in this verse, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned these three things. Okay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as in the Hadith al-Qudsi, He said, "Abdi taraka shahwatu wa ta'amu wa sharabuhu ibtigha'a mardati." My servant, he abstains from food and drink and intimacy for my sake. For inshallah ta'ala, we'll explain these three mufattirat. Okay, if you understand these three, then you'll understand and what's connected to it, then you'll understand what nullifies your fast. So as for eating and drinking, the meaning of eating and drinking is that which is the reaching of the food into the stomach or the throat through the usual passage. Okay, and the usual passage is what? It's the mouth and the nose. As the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam said, "Balik fil istinshaq illa an takuna sa'ima." To exaggerate and sniff in the water when you do wudu, unless when you're fasting, except when you're fasting. Which indicates, what does that indicate? And why did the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam give an exception to not exaggerate and sniff in the water when doing wudu, when fasting? Because water can go and reach the throat or the stomach. So it's considered a normal passage that reaches the throat and the stomach. And there's a difference between tasting and eating and swallowing. There's a difference between tasting and eating and swallowing. For tasting something for a need is permissible. Like for example, if a woman is cooking and she wants to check the salt of the food, it's permissible for her to put a small amount on her tongue and then she spits it out. She doesn't swallow it. If there is a need for it, it's allowed. وفي أثر عن هذا عن الصحابة لك ابن عباس رضي الله عنه وإمام أحمد رحمه الله. He said, أحب إلي أن يجتنب ذوق الطعام فإن فعل لم يضره ولا بأس به. If he done it, there is no harm on him. وابن عباس رضي الله عنه, he said, لا بأس أن يذوق الطعام وشيء يريد شراءه. There's nothing wrong with tasting the vinegar or something one intends to buy. كما ذكر ابن قدامة في مغني. But likewise, they do not dislike rinsing the mouth. Water is more heated when it enters the mouth and mixes more intensely with the saliva than food, صح? But likewise, it is allowed to taste the food on the tongue if there's a need. Like if a woman is cooking, to check the salts, مثلا, on the food, because her husband's going to eat that or break his fast with that. Lakin, it's not allowed for her to swallow it. She spits it out. طيب. Regards to eating and drinking, is it specific to what nourishes and strengthens, or does it include bringing any substance into the stomach, regardless if it's nutritional or not? The correct and strong opinion of Allahu A'lam is the second. For anything or bringing any substance into the stomach through the mouth or the nose, even if it is not nourishing, this is what breaks the fast. That's why if a person has a handful of salt, for example, and swallows it whilst fasting, la shak, that's not going to strengthen him, right? Rather, it will weaken him even more. But it's still referred to eating salt. If you see someone do that, you will say that he ate salt, right? If someone came and drank gasoline, for example, this does not strengthen him, rather it weakens him. It will affect him badly. Like, you will still say this person drank gasoline, right? But the essence of eating and drinking applies to the act of delivering any substance to the stomach or to the throat. And it doesn't matter if it's nutritious or not. Does that make sense, ikhwat? But if someone is fasting and delivers a substance into his stomach or his throat through the mouth of the nose or a normal passageway, this is what breaks his fast. And this is the opinion of majority, that it doesn't have to be something that is considered nutritious to break your fast. Okay? Except the madhab of Imam Malik. Like the opinion of majority, symbolizes ijma'. ولذلك, if you see someone who gets dust and he puts it in his mouth and he swallows it, would you not say that this person ate dust? Huh? Even though dust is not considered food, but would you not say this person ate dust? You would, sah? This shows that anything that reaches the throat and the stomach through a natural passageway, that is what is considered eating and drinking. That is what's considered to break a fast. It doesn't matter if it's beneficial like cheese and milk, if it's not beneficial like poison and alcohol, whether it's halal like bread and water, whether it's haram, pork and wine, whether it is considered normal food or drink to the people, or whether it's not considered normal food and drink. Like I mentioned, dust, someone puts dust in his mouth and swallows it, or stones, or beads, or petrol, drinks petrol. These all break your fast. These all break the fast. طيب قد يسأل السائل, someone may ask, what about phlegm and saliva? If someone swallowed phlegm and gathered his saliva and swallowed it, does that break the fast or no? As for phlegm, it can either come from the nose to the mouth and then to the throat, or it can rise from the throat to the mouth, or it can even be present in the chest. If it's in the nose, it can descend into the mouth and then to the throat. And if it's in the chest, it can come out into the mouth. Okay. If the mucus and this phlegm is only in the nose, or it's only in the chest, or it's only in your upper throat, then that does not harm your fast. However, if the mucus or the phlegm, it comes from your nose into your mouth, or from your chest into your mouth, or from the throat into your mouth, then you have to spit it out, you have to force it out. And if you swallow it muta'ammid deliberately, then this is also considered, or takes the ruling of eating and drinking, which breaks the fast. And this is the opinion of majority, including the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Ahmed rahimahullah. As for if he swallows it unintentionally, that does not break the fast. Okay. And likewise, those who are overwhelmed by mucus and phlegm, and it mixes with his saliva, that does not harm him as well. And we don't say to that person he has to keep spitting it out. But if they're overwhelmed by mucus and phlegm until it becomes mixed with the saliva, then this takes the ruling of saliva. It does not invalidate the fast. The point we're making here, if it's only mucus or phlegm that exits from the chest through the throat to the mouth, and it is not dominant, it does not dominate the person. Or if it descends from the nose to the mouth and it is not dominant over the person, he must spit it out. And if he intentionally swallows it, that breaks the fast. And as I mentioned, if he done it unintentionally or out of ignorance, he didn't know that that was his phlegm, then that does not break the fast. As for saliva, if the saliva separates from a person and exits from his mouth, with the sign of separation between it reaches between the two lips, there is saliva between the lips, and if it separates and then he sucks it and swallows it, it breaks the fast, and this is the madhab of Imam Ahmed or Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. Why? Because he has introduced a substance that has separated from him. So it's now become foreign to his body. Like in the more correct opinion, Wallahu a'lam, is that it does not break his fast, even if it reaches the lips. The only time it will break your fast is one specific scenario, which is very rare someone's going to do this. That is that if he actually spits his saliva into something else, like in a cup, and then he swallows it. Then he swallows it. This is what breaks his fast, because now it's considered a completely foreign substance from him. As for if he gathers saliva in his mouth, and he does not go out of his mouth completely, if he swallows it, this does not break his fast. But if he gathers it and swallows it, it does not break the fast, and his fast is valid. If he gathers it and swallows it, and the saliva is still in his mouth, is taqriban as if there's ijma' on this. Okay, as if there's ijma' on this consensus that it does not break the fast. As for what I mentioned before, that what the madhab of Imam Ahmad, Imam Shafi'i, that's if the saliva exits the lips and then he swallows it. they say it breaks the fast. Like the most strong opinion of Allahu A'lam is that it does not break the fast unless someone completely spits out his saliva, so it's completely separate from him, and then he swallows it. Naam. So that's in regards to the masala of the saliva and the phlegm connected to eating and drinking. Now, in regards to eating and drinking, as we mentioned, the reason for breaking the fast by eating and drinking is because they ate and drank, right? And eating and drinking are specific to that which is considered a natural passageway, which is the mouth and the nose. That which reaches the stomach and throat is through the mouth and the nose. So upon this opinion, if a person used an injection to deliver a substance to the stomach, does it break the fast or no? Those who say that it does not break the fast, they say because this is not considered eating and drinking. And we can't do qiyas that this is considered eating and drinking. Because eating and drinking is the action itself. Physically eating and drinking, and you're putting it through the mouth and the nose. For they say that this does not, injections do not break the fast. Because it's not considered eating or drinking. It's not from the mouth or the nose. Like in most of the scholars, they agree that the reason for breaking the fast by eating or drinking is the introduction of the substance into the stomach. Therefore, anything that, or any means that reaches the stomach breaks the fast. If it's considered something common that will reach the stomach. So anything that reaches the stomach, which is not considered rare that it will reach the stomach, it breaks the fast. Because they say the fact that the Messenger ﷺ said, "Balik fil istinshaq illa an takuna sa'ima," to exaggerate in sniffing the water except if you're fasting. They say that it is known that water entering the nose to reach the throat is not called drinking. Someone puts water in his nose, they don't drink through their nose, right? For no one says that this person drank water from his nose. No one will say to you, drink the water from your nose. For this shows, or they say this shows that the meaning is the water reaching the throat and stomach. Okay? For saying that, a sub-branch matter on this masala is in regards to injections and needles that we see today. And this is of 4 types. The first is known as al-ibru mawdu'iyya, which are needles put in, which affects the place put in only. And it does not transfer through the whole body. Like that which is used in the dentist to remove a molar, for example, or that which is called the skin prick test, the allergy skin test, or anesthesia syringe. These do not break the fast, and there's nothing wrong with this, because it doesn't reach the stomach. Nothing reaches the stomach. The second type of injection is known as al-ibru al-mughadhiya, which are basically injections used as a substitute for food or drink to put in nutrition. For example, the ill who is unconscious, who is not able to be fed in through the mouth, they put injections in him to give him that nutrition. This breaks the fast. The third type of injection is known as al-ibru muqawwamah. These are injections that strengthens the person. Okay? It strengthens the person, but it doesn't replace food and drink. Like some vitamin injections, some insulin injections, the penicillin injection that a diabetic patient receives. For these also break the fast, because the body absorbs it and it reaches the stomach. The fourth type of injection is known as ibru dawa wa ilaj, medical injections. Again, these are injections that also reach the stomach. Shahid, the point is To make it simple and easy to understand, anything that reaches the stomach, and through a natural passageway, it is known that it will reach the stomach, that is what breaks the fast. And that's the dhabit. And that's why we mentioned last lesson, if someone put kuhl on his eyes or eye drops or ear drops and it reaches his stomach or his throat, does it break the fast? It doesn't break the fast. Why? Because it's not something that is seen as common to reach the stomach or the throat. And if it did, it's considered something that's rare. That which is rare has no consideration when it comes to the ruling. And that adilla hukum lahu. But that's in regards to eating and drinking. As for intimacy, this is also from usul al-mufattirat, the foundational nullifiers of fasting. And intimacy, it does not matter if it was lawful or unlawful, regardless if he released or she released or not. It breaks the fast by consensus. And there are specific rulings regards to those who have intimacy during Ramadan, which we'll take next week, inshallah, tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. There's a hadith that's coming up in regards to that. Like that which is important to mention pertaining to intimacy, in regards to breaking the fast, is it solely prohibited, or is the prohibition solely connected to intercourse or not? The majority of the scholars, they say that any shahwa, any desire followed by ejaculation is what nullifies. Okay? For any desire experienced by a person through their own action, to the point that they have released, that's what nullifies the fast. Through their own action. If someone feels desire and released without their own action, that does not nullify the fast. For example, if a person wakes up after Fajr and he had a wet dream, mathalan, in their sleep, and he feels desire, and he sees the many on his clothing, this does not nullify his fast because it was not due to his own action. If a man who's living far away from his spouse has been overwhelmed by thoughts about his family and he releases, this does not nullify his fast because something that overtook him and it's not from his own action. As for if it's from his own action that he released, then this is what nullifies the fast. For example, if he looks at a picture which is haram, like if he looks at a picture of his wife, for example, on his phone, to the point that he releases, then it's considered he broke his fast because this was from his own action. If he looks at his spouse to the point that he releases, then it's considered he has broken his fast. But what breaks a person's fast? Number one, actual intercourse, and it doesn't matter if he released or not. And number two, achieving desire, yani releasing through his own actions until he releases. Through his own actions until he releases. But these are the three foundational nullifiers of fasting. نعم تفضل أخي.
أحسن الله إليكم. قال المؤلف رحمه الله: وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من ذرعه القيء فلا قضاء عليه، ومن استسقاء فعليه القضاء. رواه الخمسة وأعله أحمد وقواه الدارقطني. Narrated Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whoever has a sudden attack of vomiting while he's fasting does not have to make up the fast, but whoever vomits intentionally must make up the day.
نعم. من ذرعه القيء، ذرع يعني غلبه. Okay, خرج القيء دون اختياره. He has overtaken him. The vomit has come without his choice. والقيء هو خروج طعام ونحوه من الجوف إلى ظاهر البدن. Vomit يعني غيظ vomits يعني, which is the expulsion of food or similar substances from the body to the outside. ومن استقاع أي يستدعي القيء وطلب خروجه تعمدا. ومن استقاع, the one who makes himself vomit. And a person can make himself vomit in different ways. It could be by the sight, for example. A person can see something unpleasant that he knows if he looks at this, he will vomit. But this comes under this meaning, the one who makes himself vomit. It could be by him looking at something. He deliberately looks at something he knows that will make him vomit. It could be by smell. For example, he smells a foul odor that he knows that will make him vomit, and he's still smelling it. It could be by squeezing. For example, he may squeeze his stomach forcefully upwards until he vomits. It could be by pulling, by inserting his finger into his mouth until it reaches the back of the throat and then vomiting. It could even be by listening to something. Okay, sometimes a person may listen to something that causes him to vomit. Okay, some people, I know that when they're in the car on a journey, the noise of when driving makes them want to vomit. Okay, for the shahid, the point is, the Messenger ﷺ, he did not specify a method yani, for inducing vomit. Whatever method a person uses in inducing vomit takes this ruling. Okay, he has to make up for it. Yani, this is also considered a nullifier of fasting, the one who makes himself vomit. For the Messenger ﷺ, he said after that, فَعَلَيْهِ الْقَضَاء, that he has to make up the fast. فَعَلَيْهِ, the word عَلَى here, عَلَيْهِ, is known as من أحرف الوجوب. It's from the letters of obligation. Okay, يعني there are words that indicate obligation, like يلزم, يجب, حتم, فرض, مكتوب, or كتب. From them as well is على. Okay, some of the scholars, they mention usul من أدوات الوجوب. It's from the tools that indicate obligation. فعليه القضاء indicates obligation, that he has to make it up. It's wajib, he has to make this fast up, and his fast has been nullified by making himself vomit. وابن قدامة وابن المنذر رحمه الله reported consensus, إجماع, that intentionally inducing vomit breaks the fast. طيب, what is it that breaks the fast? Is it merely the action of inducing vomits, or is it the coming out of the vomit from the mouth whilst inducing the vomit? What is it that breaks the fast? Is it merely the action of inducing vomit, yani making himself vomit, or is it the vomit actually coming out because you made yourself vomit? Yeah, you're inducing yourself to vomit. The answer is the second. Okay. So, yani, based on this, if someone induces vomiting, he tries to make himself vomit, but vomit does not come out, his fast is not broken. His fast is not broken. Does that make sense, ikhwata? And it's important to understand this. Yani, what breaks the fast? Is it merely the action of trying to make yourself vomit? Or is it actually the vomit coming out by you trying to make yourself vomit? The answer is the second. If someone induces vomit, tries making himself vomit, but no vomit comes out, for example, he puts his fingers in his throat, trying to make himself vomit, but no vomit comes out, his fast is not broken. And this is known from Dalalatul Iqtida. Dalalatul Mantuq, as studied in Usul al-Fiqh, is two types. Mantuq as-Sarih, which is further divided into two, Dalalatul Mutabaq or Dalalatul Tadammun. And the second is Mantuq Ghayru Sarih. I think last lesson we spoke about Dalalatul Mafhum, right? Dalalatul Mantuq is in regards to the indication of the wording itself. It's two types. Either it's explicit, Dalalatul Mantuq al-Sarih, which divides it into a further two, Dalalatul Mutabaq or Dalalatul Tadammun, or either it is Mantuq Ghayru Sarih, okay, which is not explicit in the wording, which is known as Dalalatul Iltizam. And this is also three types: Al-Iqtida, Al-Iqtida, Wal-Ishara, Wa-Ima, Wa-Tanbih. But this is known as Dalalatul Iqtida. Dalalatul Iqtida is, or basically means, يعني ما يتضمن الكلام إدمارا ضروريا لا بد من تقديره لأن الكلام لا يستقيم دونه. It is speech that must include a necessary implication because the speech does not stand without it. Okay. For the wordings of the hadith, دلالة الاقتضاء indicates that the meaning is that which nullifies the fast is the actual vomit coming out by making yourself vomit, and not merely the action of just trying to make yourself vomit and the vomit does not come out. Now, and there's a principle as well. أن العبد لا يؤاخذ على ما يغلبه أو خرج عن اختياره. A person, وهذا من رحمة الله, is not held accountable for what overcomes him or what is beyond his control. And this hadith indicates that. Okay, the one who vomits involuntarily is not held accountable for it because it's not from his choice. And this also indicates someone who's forced to do something, then that breaks the fast. That does not break the fast. Because it was not from his choice. And we mentioned in the last hadith the three conditions of a person if he falls into a nullifier. Falling into a nullifier itself doesn't break a fast unrestrictedly. There's three conditions. From that is that he done it with choice, intentionally. Okay, if a person done it without choice, unintentionally, or it overtook him, or he's forced, he does not break his fast. And then he said, رواه خمسة وعله أحمد وقواه دارقطني. Some have weakened this hadith, this narration, like there's another path of transmission which is authentic. طيب. As for the rulings pertaining to this hadith, as we mentioned, إخوة, you kind of already spoken about it. Deliberately inducing vomit breaks the fast. Okay, and this is by consensus of the scholars. And as I mentioned, deliberately vomiting can occur by doing something that leads to vomiting, such as inserting a finger in the throat, or by directly causing an action that he knows will lead to vomiting. Both of these are considered deliberate vomiting. Okay, if someone inserts the finger into the throat until they vomit, it nullifies the fast by consensus. If someone knows that this food, if he was to smell it, he's going to vomit, and he purposely smells it until he vomits, then this is considered as deliberately vomiting. So if one intentionally induces vomiting through actions that generally cause it, or through direct cause that likely results in it, they break their fast. And if someone is overpowered by vomiting due to an external reason that is not directly caused by them, then that does not break their fast. For example, if a sick person takes medication at the night, and then during the day whilst they're fasting, they experience some kind of nausea and vomits, their fast is still valid. Or if a pregnant woman, for example, is fasting and experiences overwhelming nausea and vomits, her fast also is valid. Like, they should be careful to not let anything return back to the stomach, and to not swallow that vomit. And this shows that the nullifiers of fasting are not just eating, drinking, and intimacy. There are other things other than eating, drinking, and intimacy, and that which is connected to these three that we spoke about already, that also break the fast. So from that is vomiting. Also from that is menstruation. From that is also death. From that is also apostating. And from that is also having a firm intention to break a fast. If someone has a firm intention that he's going to break his fast, then that's considered that he has broken his fast. For example, if someone's traveling, he's fasting, but he says, and he makes the intention, when I reach the service station, I'm going to eat. He had that firm intention. It's considered he has broken his fast. No. تفضل أخي.
أحسن الله إليكم. وعن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خرج عام الفتح إلى مكة في رمضان فصام حتى بلغ قراء الغميم فصام الناس ثم دعا بقدح من ماء فرفعه حتى نذر الناس إليه ثم شرب فقيل له بعد ذلك إن بعض الناس قد صام فقال أولئك العصاة أولئك العصاة في لفظ فقيل له إن الناس قد شق عليهم الصيام وإنما ينتظرون فيما فعلت فدعا بقدح من ماء بعد العصر فشرب رواه مسلم. Narrated Jabir ibn Abdullah رضي الله ta'ala anhuma, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam departed to Mecca in Ramadan in the year of the conquest. He and the people fasted till he came to Qura al-Ghamim. Then he called for a cup of water which he raised till the people looked at it, and then he drank. He was told afterwards that some of the people had continued to fast, and he said, those are the disobedient ones. Those are the disobedient ones. In another narration, it was said to him, the people have found the fast difficult and are waiting for you for what you will do. Then he called for a cup of water after the Asr prayer and drank.
نعم. This hadith, and نعم اقرأ the next hadith as well. حمزة بن عمرو.
أحسن الله إليكم. وعن حمزة بن عمرو الأسلمي رضي الله تعالى عنه أنه قال يا رسول الله إني أجد بي قوة على الصيام في السفر فهل علي جناح؟ فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم هي رخصة من الله فمن أخذ بها فحسن ومن أحب أن يصوم فلا جناح عليه. رواه مسلم. فأصله في المتفق عليه من حديث عائشة أن حمزة بن عمرو سأله. Narrated Hamza bin Amr al-Aslami radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, O Allah's Messenger, I find myself strong enough to fast while traveling. So is there any sin upon me if I fast? Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, it is a permission given by Allah, and whoever acts upon it has done well. And whoever desires to fast will not be guilty of sin. And his basic meaning is found in Al-Bukhari and Muslim from Aisha, reported from Hamza bin Amr, had asked.
أنت مريض محمد.
Sorry, I have a problem with my throat today.
نعم. لعله we'll take this hadith, we'll stop there inshallah ta'ala. Me myself, I'm very ill as well. I will take this hadith, we'll stop there inshallah ta'ala. These three narrations that the brother he read is connected to the masala of traveling. Okay. Fasting for the travel. طيب. But we'll take the words of the hadith and we'll take the rulings of the hadith. For the first narration is the narration of Jabir رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خرج عام الفتح إلى مكة في رمضان. وجابر رضي الله عنه إمام الكبير المجتهد الحافظ صاحب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أبو عبد الله الأنصاري المدني الفقهي، هو من أهل بيعة رضوان, and he narrated a great deal of knowledge from the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام. He was the Mufti of Medina in his time. The Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, or he said that the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام said to us في يوم حديبية أنتم اليوم خير أهل الأرض, that you are the best of the people on earth. And he mentioned that we were 1,400. And he passed away in the year 78 at the age of 94. Bukhari and Muslim agreed upon 58 hadith from him, whilst Bukhari alone recorded 26 hadith, or Muslim recorded 126 hadith. So he said that the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam left for Mecca during the year of the conquest, yani of Mecca in Ramadan, and the people with him fasted until he reached the valley. Until he reached the valley of Qura al-Ghamim. And this indicates the permissibility of traveling during Ramadan, based on the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam actions, as mentioned in the hadith. It also indicates the permissibility of fighting during Ramadan, because this journey was for the conquest of Mecca. He then called for a cup of water, which he elevated so that the people could see it, and he drank. And this shows or demonstrates the excellence of the teaching of the Messenger ﷺ. For he demonstrated it through action by drinking in front of the people to illustrate the ruling. And this is more impactful than merely words, okay, than merely just saying something, because it conforms or confirms upon what he says through his actions. For the Messenger ﷺ, his explanations could either be by that which is verbal or practical. Then he was told that some people had continued to fast, and he said that those are the ones that are disobedient. أولئك أُصَاء. Those are the ones that are disobedient. And this shows ليس كل مجتهد مصيب. That not every mujtahid who exercises to do independent judgment is correct. For he said here some people fasted. And after the Messenger ﷺ, he himself broke the fast, there were still some of the companions that carried on fasting. And the Messenger ﷺ, he said, those are the ones that are disobedient. هؤلاء أولئك أُصَاء. Which shows you that the truth is only one. The truth is one, and it's not multiple. And it shows the principle that's a principle that you hear a lot, لا إنكار في مسائل الاجتهاد. That there is no disapproval in matters of ijtihad, okay, independent reasoning. This only applies if it does not contradict the text. So this principle that you hear, لا إنكار في مسائل الاجتهاد, that there is no disapproval in matters of ijtihad, this only applies, or this qa'id is only valid so long that it does not actually contradict the text. Okay, if it contradicts the text, then it is obligatory to disprove it, this ijtihad. Because we go back to قال الله وقال رسول. ولذلك, an example of this, the story about Abu Sa'id, he mentioned Al-Khudri anhu, that there were two men who performed tayammum. Hadith is in Nasa'i, classified authentic by Imam Al-Bani. There are two men who performed tayammum. They prayed, and then they found water. Okay, so they didn't have water first and foremost, so they done tayammum, dry ablution, and they prayed. Then after they found that there was water, and there was still time for the prayer, meaning the next prayer hasn't started yet. So one of them, they performed wudu and repeated the prayer, and the other, he did not repeat the prayer. So after they came and asked the Messenger ﷺ about this, and the Messenger ﷺ, he said to the one who did not repeat the prayer, asabta sunnah, that you have followed the sunnah, okay, and your prayer is valid. And he said to the other one who did repeat his prayer, he said, laka ajran, you will have two rewards. Okay, so this hadith, there's two men who did not find water. They performed tayammum, they prayed, they found water within the time limits. The prayer time did not end. So one of them, they took precaution. He didn't have knowledge, but he took precaution. And he said, as if he was saying, as long as the water has come and the time is still available, I should do wudu and I should repeat the prayer and pray. So he done wudu and repeated the prayer. As for the other, he did not repeat it. He sufficed with the prayer he prayed with tayammum. For when they came and asked the Messenger ﷺ about this, the Messenger ﷺ, he said, who is the one that has followed the sunnah? The one who did not repeat the prayer. And the one who did repeat the prayer, he said that he has two rewards. Why? Because of ijtihad. He has ijtihad. The reward of the first prayer and the reward of the second because of ijtihad. Like in the scholars, they say about this hadith, that this shows if you know what the sunnah is and you still do not follow that, and you say that you're following ijtihad, then it's dispraiseworthy. Okay? As for if you don't know the sunnah and you follow ijtihad, which is correct, then it is praiseworthy. For that is the meaning of the principle لا إنكار في مسائل الاجتهاد. Okay, so long that it doesn't go against the text. As for the second narration that the brother he read, وفي لفظ فقيل له إن ناس قد شق عليهم الصيام وإنما ينظرون فيما فعلت فدعا بقدح من ماء بعد العصر فشرب. The narration that is in Muslim. For this statement here, that he was told that the people are finding it difficult to fast during the journey, the benefit we get from this is it shows or clarifies the reason why the Messenger Ali broke his fast. Because after he drank water, he called for a cup of water after the Asr prayer and drank water. It shows the reasoning here. The illah is mentioned here. Because due to difficulty of fasting for the people that were with him. So he broke his fast. And this shows also a principle that the imam or a person of leadership, القدوة لابد أن يراعي أحوال الناس. A person who has a role of being a leader, he should take into account the conditions of the people. For the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he may leave an action that he loves to do out of fear that it will be a burden upon the people. And this is a form of gentleness and rahmah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam for his ummah. He might do an action that he would want to prolong it. Like for example, he wanted to delay the prayer of Isha. Sometimes he won't delay it so it doesn't cause hardship for the Sahaba. Or he will shorten the prayer so it is easier upon those behind him. If he hears a child cry, for example, he will refrain from prolonging the prayer out of fear that it may cause hardship for the mother. But the point is, the Messenger ﷺ, he will take in consideration of the conditions of the Muslims and be mindful of the weakness so that it doesn't cause them difficulty. For a person who takes or has a role of being a leader, like a scholar or a da'i, imam of a masjid, a person who, even in a family, who has some kind of leadership, he should be attentive regards to the condition of those around him. Okay? Because causing hardship on others, it leads to division. And this goes back to a principle we mentioned a few lessons ago, جلب المصالح ودفع المفاسد, which is a principle some they say all of fiqh is built upon it. And I spoke about it, the importance of this principle in one of the previous lessons. Now, as for the third narration that the brother he read, the hadith of Hamza ibn Amr al-Aslami, who is the one who brought the news of Ka'b, repentance, and he clothed al-Ka'b radiallahu anhum with the two garments. As you know, the story of Ka'b ibn Malik, when he didn't join the Battle of Tabuk without a valid excuse, and the hypocrites, they lied. They said that they couldn't join, and they made an excuse. But Ka'b ibn Malik, he was honest, and he admitted his mistake, that he didn't join the battle. For the Messenger Ali sallallahu the companions boycotted him for 50 days. And after 50 days, revelation came down for him to be forgiven, and Hamza ibn Amr, he's the one that brought him. Okay, well, Hamza ibn Amr, he was from those who witnessed the opening of Syria. Well, he died in the year of 61 at the age of 71 years. Some say 80 years, and he narrated 9 ahadith from the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, which is narrated Muslim wa Abu Dawud wa Nasa'i. Okay, for he said that I said to the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, I find within me the strength to fast while traveling. Would there be any blame upon me if I was to do so? And this indicates the eagerness of the companions of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam to gain a understanding of religion. Okay, as demonstrated by Hamza bin Amr, his question to the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. Some people, they believe that concessions in religious obligations are made solely due to hardship, and that if one possesses the strength, then the concession doesn't apply. فَوَلِذَلِكَ Hamza ibn Amr, he said, I find strength in fasting. Is there any blame upon me? Okay, and in regards to breaking the fast. And the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he replied, it is a concession from Allah. It is a concession from Allah. هي رخصة من الله. And this refutes the madhab of the Zahiri, Ibn Hazm. They say that if a person is traveling, it's obligatory to break a fast. Because they say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيدًا وَعَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Whoever among you is ill or on a journey, then it is wajib upon them to make it up another day, the fast. And they say, Hadith al-Bab khalif al-Quran, فَيُقَدِّم al-Quran. They say that this hadith, it contradicts the verse in the Quran. So we take precedence of the Quran. And this is incorrect. Okay, because the verse فيه يعني دلالة الاقتضاء. The meaning of the verse contains an implied meaning. The meaning of the verse يعني على سفر فأفطر في عدة من أيام أخرى. فمن كان منكم مريضا على سفر فأفطر يعني which is hidden there is there in meaning فعدة من أيام أخرى. Okay, if you break your fast when you're traveling, then to make it up. Like it's not obligatory that you have to break your fast when you're traveling, as the Zahiri madhab they mention. And the Sunnah, as you know, your ikhwata clarifies the Quran. The Sunnah tubayyin al-Quran. Naam. As for the rulings of the hadith, but this shows you that the traveler is allowed to break his fast whilst traveling. Okay, based on the evidence from the Quran, Sunnah, wa Ijma, except the madhab of the Zahiri madhab, which is called shadh. Lakin, there's conditions for it to be permissible to break your fast when traveling. These conditions are free. The first condition is that travel must be lawful, meaning that a person must exit the city with the intention of traveling the distance that is considered traveling in the Sharia. And that which is considered traveling in the Sharia is 80 kilometers. 80 kilometers. If one has reached 80 kilometers, is considered, or as one is traveling 80 kilometers, is considered a travel. Because the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam said, لا يهل لامرأة تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر تسافر مسيرة يوم وليلة إلا مع ذي محرم عليها. The Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, it is not permissible for a woman who believes in Allah and the last day to travel for a day and night except with a mahram. The hadith is in Sahihain. And a day and a night is equivalent to what the scholars they say, arba'a burud. One burud is equivalent to 4 farasikh. Okay? So that means the distance of a day and a night is 16 farasikh. And one farsakha is considered 3 miles. Okay? For if you multiply 16 times 3, that equals 48 miles. Okay? This is yani, according to the ancient measurements. Yani. When I say a burud or farasikh, these are the ancient measurements that were used before. For if you want to convert this to contemporary measurements, it's 48 miles, which is equivalent to 80 kilometers. Okay. And this is yani, also supported by narrations of the Sahaba. For example, Ibn Abbas or Ibn Umar, they used to say to the people of Mecca, oh, people of Mecca, do not shorten your prayers for less than yani, arba' burud, 4 burud. And there's no opposition opinion from the companions in regards to this, which shows that this is the correct opinion. Okay. And I check the companions are undoubtedly the most knowledgeable people about Allah's legislation and the intentions of the Messenger ﷺ and the language of the Quran or Sunnah. For the closest opinion is and the opinion of majority of scholars is the distance of travel is 80 kilometers. Okay. And this is the contemporary estimate. In previous measurements, it was 4 burud, was 16 farasikh. Like in this equals to now 48 miles, which is 80 kilometers taqriban. And what also supports is the Messenger ﷺ, during the farewell pilgrimage, he spent about 10 days traveling from Medina to Mecca. This means how many kilometers did he cover each day? The distance between Medina and Mecca is 400 kilometers. But this means he covered 40 kilometers each day. And this means yani, a day and a night, if we say 40 and 40, a day and a night, 40 and 40 becomes 80. Right? A day and a night is 80. Yani 80 kilometers. As for if the distance is below 80 kilometers, if it's 60, 70, 50, is it considered traveling or no? Some of the scholars like Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah or Shaykh Salim ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, they say it is considered traveling if it is considered traveling according to the custom of your people. Okay? And they say because there's no evidence that negates this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاهٌ أن تقصروا من صلاة إن خفتم أن يفتنكم الذين كفروا إن الكافرين كان لكم عدوا مبينا. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, when you travel in the land, there is no blame upon you to shorten the prayer. For the verse is general regarding shortening the prayer during any travel. For there's no restriction mentioned concerning the distance. And also they say defining travel by distance or days is not precise because it varies based on speed, the type of mode of transportation, and other factors. And the principle is كل ما ورد به الشرع مطلقا ولا ضابط له فيه ولا في اللغة يرجع إلى العرف. So if the distance is less than 80 kilometers, it goes back to the customs of the country in which the people is situated. Okay, if the people in the country consider this as traveling, then it's considered a travel. If it's not considered as traveling, then it's not considered a travel. As for if it's 80 kilometers or exceeds that, then this is considered traveling unrestrictedly, even if the people don't consider it as traveling. طيب. For when does it begin for the traveler to be able to break his fast? Okay. When is it allowed for the traveler to break his fast? Is it when he actually reaches that distance, 80 kilometers, or whatever is considered traveling? Or is it as soon as he leaves to travel? For example, when he gets into his car and leaves. The sunnah shows the ikhwata, the traveler can break his fast from when he gets ready to travel. If, for example, you have a flight tomorrow, مثلا, or tonight, for example. If you put your suitcases in your boots in your car, you're ready, you're in your car, you started the car and you started the car to go to the airport, here's allowed for you now to break your fast. But there's a difference with regards to shortening the prayers as a traveler and in regards to breaking the fast as a traveler. When it comes to shortening the prayer, you have to reach the distance first. So once you've actually reached 80 kilometers, that's when you can shorten your prayer. As for breaking your fast, you don't have to reach the distance. It's as soon as you've actually started the travel. Okay? That's when you can break your fast. Because the action of prayer can be only done in one place, whereas fasting is an action that's continuous. Okay? And there's evidence for this in Sunan Abu Dawud, or Imam Al-Bani, rahimahullah, classified as authentic. Ja'far bin Jubair, he mentioned that I accompanied Abu al-Busra al-Ghafari, who was a companion of the Messenger alayhi salam, in a boat that was proceeding from Al-Fustat, which is in Cairo, fi shahri Ramadan, in the month of Ramadan. And then he said he was lifted to the boats, and then his meal was brought to him. And then Ja'far, he said, he did not go beyond the houses of the city, but he called for the dining sheet. And he said to me, come near and eat with me. For he said to him, Ja'far, do you not see the houses? Well, Abu Busra, he said, أَتَرْغَبُ عَنْ سُنَّةِ مُحَمَّدٍ فَأَكَلَ. Do you detest the sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam? For then Ja'far, he ate with Abu Busra al-Ghafari. Okay, which shows that breaking the fast as a traveler is from when you're actually, it's not when you actually reach the destination or that which is considered traveling, 80 kilometers. It's as soon as you leave the house, preparing to travel. Okay. Like in saying that, I say, it's better to not break the fast when leaving for the travel, just in case something may come up which may prevent you from traveling and you end up staying or going back home or staying in your residence. So, for example, you're going to the airport, I wouldn't say break your fast there. It could, because there's a possibility that you could have to return back home, right? But wait until you're sure, and if you want to break your fast, then you can break your fast. طيب. So that's the first condition. If you go back, what did I mention? When is it allowed to break your fast when traveling? It's with 3 conditions. That's the first condition. The first condition is that it has to be a travel that is considered traveling in the Sharia, which is 80 kilometers, or that which is less than it and is considered traveling according to the customs of your people. That's the first condition. The second condition is that to travel should not be for a sinful purpose. For they should not travel in a way that involves sins. Okay? A traveler, he may find himself in one of 3 situations. Either the first situation, they travel for a sinful purpose. Or either number two, they travel for something that's permissible. Or either number three, they travel for that which is considered obedience. Okay? As for the first situation, traveling for a sinful matter, then this is haram. For example, if someone travels with the intention that he wants to commit adultery, with the intention that he wants to drink alcohol, or with the intention he wants to kill a Muslim for revenge. But this is a travel that is of sin. Okay? Here is not allowed for him to break his fast. And this is the opinion of majority except the Hanafi method. Because the principle is الرخص لا تناط بالمعاصي. الرخص لا تناط بالمعاصي. Because concession, rukhsa, is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah's blessing is not to be attained by sin. And this is also a way of deterrence for that person to not embark in this traveling. If we say to him, as long as your travel is a sin, you cannot take advantage of the concession, perhaps this will lead him to abandon the haram and avoid the disobedience during his travel. And the matter is quite simple, ya akhta. If a person called and he said that I'm going to come to Mecca with the intention to steal from the people around the Kaaba, and he asks, is it permissible for me to break my fast? But mathalan, the answer of course is no, right? It's not acceptable for you to break your fast. If he says, but I'm a traveler, we say to him, lakin this is a travel of sin. If he then asks, okay, how do I get this concession then? The answer is simple. You just repent to Allah. If you repent to Allah Azza wa Jal of your disobedience, then the sin is removed. And now you may break your fast. Okay? Even though your intention initially was to travel to this place to do a sin, if you've reached this place and you changed your mind and you changed your heart and you repented, then you can take the rukhsah. It's as simple as that. But that's the first situation, and you're traveling of sin. The second situation is a traveling that's permissible, like the one who travels to experience something new, to look at something that's permissible, to experience a new weather, مثلا. There's يعني شبه الإجماع, as if there's consensus on this matter, that it's permissible for him to break his fast due to the generality of the evidences without restriction, indicating that it's permissible for him to break his fast. And there's a difference, ya ikhwata, pay attention, there's a difference between sinning by the travel and sinning in the travel. Okay? For the one who is traveling for something permissible, then does a sin in his travel, doesn't take the same ruling as someone who's traveling for the sake of doing a sin. Does that make sense? So, for example, the one who traveled for something permissible, he wanted to experience a new weather, and then when he reached that country, he done sins like listening to music. Okay? He doesn't fall under this where he cannot take this rukhsah now. He can't take this concession. For the difference between this person and the one who actually is traveling to do a sin. He's traveling because he wants to do zina, billah, because this country has fi ibahiyya, yani. It's more widespread and it's easier to do it. But there's a difference between the two. The third situation is the travel that is of obedience, and that's clear. Person who travels for umrah, mathalan, or to seek knowledge. For here, by consensus, he's allowed to break his fast. But that's the second condition, okay? For it to be allowed for you to take this concession of being allowed to break your fast as a traveler, the first condition is what? That it has to be considered a travel in the Sharia, which is 80 kilometers, or whatever is below that, which is considered traveling according to the custom of your people. The second condition is that the travel should not be a travel of sin. The third condition is that the person should not manipulate the travel solely for the reason to break the fast. يعني here, a person, he says, I'm specifically traveling so I can break my fast. That's the only reason he's traveling. For that person, it's not allowed for him to take that rukhsah. These are the three conditions for it to be permissible to break your fast as a traveler. That's the first mas'ala. The second mas'ala pertaining to the ahkam and rulings pertaining to this matter is if the traveler who has met these conditions, okay, these three conditions, if the traveler has met these conditions, acted upon this, then he does not escape from one of two situations. The traveler who has met these conditions, he does not escape from one of these two situations. The first situation is the person began fasting as a resident from Fajr, from dawn. He made the intention before Fajr to fast and fasted, but then decided to travel throughout the day. Here there's a difference of opinion. Does he complete the fast or is it allowed for him to break it? For example, it's Ramadan. I began fasting from Fajr. I'm living in Medina. A friend came to me and said to me that he has 2 tickets to the by train, or for the train that goes to Mecca for Umrah. If I went with him, is it allowed for me to break my fast, or is it wajib I complete it? One opinion is he has to complete the fast because he began a worship that is wajib, that is obligatory. So upon him is to finish it. And another opinion, which is the opinion of the Hanabila, the Madhab Imam Shafi'i, that it is allowed for him to break the fast. He has the choice to complete the fast or to break his fast, and this is the more correct opinion, and this is clear from the hadith that the brother read. The evidences indicate he who fasts at the beginning of the day is allowed for him to break it during the day with the presence of the valid excuse. And this is the opinion of the majority of the scholars. It's permissible for him to break his fast. The Messenger ﷺ, he traveled and he did so. And it was done by the companions, the narration in front of us, the narration of Jabir anhu. The Messenger ﷺ traveled to Mecca during Ramadan. The people fasted with him until they reached the valley. Until they reached the valley of Qura al-Ghamim. And then he called for a cup of water and he elevated so the people could see it and then drank it. So this indicates that it's permissible for anyone. Even if he started fasting, he made the intention before Fajr, started fasting the day, it's permissible for him to break it when he's traveling. And also the narration we mentioned of Abu al-Basra al-Ghaffari, where he broke his fast when he embarked the boat. That's the first scenario. The second scenario is the opposite case. He was a traveler. He already broke his fast when traveling, and then throughout the day he became the resident. Is it obligatory upon him to stay away from eating and drinking and the non-effects of fasting, or is it allowed for him to eat and drink? The second scenario, traveler, he already broke his fast as a traveler. It's allowed for him to break his fast. Like in through the day, during the day, he became a resident. If he traveled in the morning, he came back by Asr, مثلا. He's a resident now. He traveled after Fajr, he broke his fast as he was a traveler, and he came back and arrived back home after Asr. Is it obligatory upon him to fast the rest of the day? Here there's a difference of opinion. The madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Ahmed rahimahullah is that they have to fast the rest of the day. Well, Shaykh Ibn Baz rahimahullah, he chose this opinion. And the reason they chose this opinion is based upon the principle al-hukmu da'irun ma'illatihi wujudan wa adama. Because they're not excused now. The excuse is lifted off now. He's not considered a traveler now. And they say the ruling goes around the reasoning. Like in a more correct and stronger opinion, Wallahu a'lam, is that they do not have to fast. Okay, this is the madhab of Imam Shafi or Imam Malik. It's also a narration of Imam Ahmed. Sheikh Salih ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah chose this opinion. Okay, as in the athar of Abdullah bin Mas'ud, man akala fi awwal al-nahar falyakul min akhirih, as narrated in the Musnad of Ibn Abi Shayba, and is authentic. The one who eats, he said, the one who eats in the beginning of the day, for a valid reason, for he can eat at the end of the day as well. He can eat at the end of the day as well. I'll give an example to, sometimes the example can make the masala more clear. If, for example, the husband was traveling in Ramadan and he already broke his fast when traveling, then he came back home during the daytime. So now he's a resident. Okay, now he's a resident. And his wife was in a state of menstruation. Like in 30 minutes before her husband came, she became pure. If they both have intimacy, is that permissible? The answer is yes. Okay, the answer is yes. They do not have to fast or take its ruling. Okay, like one thing is important is that they should not visibly eat and drink in front of people, so that people do not have bad thoughts of them, and so it doesn't encourage the corrupt, weak Iman Muslims to break the fast. And this mas'ala, this matter, will be more clear in the next hadith, inshallah ta'ala, I'll explain the 5 categories of people when it comes to fasting. Okay. طيب, the last mas'ala, we'll stop after this, inshallah ta'ala. The last mas'ala, when it comes to the rulings pertaining to traveling as a the fasting person that's traveling, is what is better for him? Is it better for him to break the fast or to carry on fasting? طبعا, we know, ya ikhwata, if he wills, if he wants, he can fast. The traveler, if he wants, he can choose to fast and he can choose to not fast. There's consensus on this. As a narration, Al-Bukhari reported that the Messenger ﷺ was asked, should I fast whilst traveling? And he said, in shi'ta fasum, wa in shi'ta fa'aftir. If you wish to fast, then fast. If you wish to break your fast, then break your fast. Which is narrated by Bukhari in Sahih. For this indicates, in a statement of the Messenger ﷺ, that it's not obligatory for the traveler to fast if he finds it difficult. Okay? And Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu, he said that we used to travel with the Messenger ﷺ, and he did not criticize the fasting person for breaking a fast, nor he did not criticize the fasting person for breaking his fast and the other, and the one who did not break his fast. And the fasting person, he did not break his fast, as narrated in Sahihain. For Shahid, there's nothing wrong if he wants to break his fast. There's nothing wrong if he does not want to break his fast as a traveler. Like in the question I'm saying here, what is better? Okay, do you understand the question, ya ikhwat? What is better? Is it better for him to break his fast, or is it better for him to not break his fast as a traveler? Some, they say that there's no virtue of one over the other. Yani both are the same. And this is attributed to the madhab of Imam Shafi'i. And they bring the evidence of the hadith narrated by Anas radiallahu anhu, which is in Bukhari, where he said, كنا نسافر مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فلم يعيب الصائم على المفطر ولا المفطر على الصائم. Where he said that we used to travel with the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام, and he did not يعني he did not فلم يعيب الصائم على المفطر ولا المفطر على الصائم. Okay, he did not disapprove of the one that was fasting and did not disapprove of the one that was not fasting. Okay. لكن لعل التحقيق, if you look at all of the narrations, that which is more clear is فيه تفصيل, and what is better, to fast or not to fast? The answer is, when you look at all of the narrations, if fasting is easier for him than making up for the fast after Ramadan, then it's better for him to fast. For in Ramadan, even if he's a traveler, he may find it easier to fast with the people than making it up after Ramadan. And the purpose of the concession, the rukhsa, is to make matters easy, right? So he chooses what's easier for him. In this situation, what's easier for him is to fast. So he fasts, that's better for him. Lakin, if the case is the opposite, fasting while traveling is difficult for him and weakens him from his worship, then we say to that person, it's better for him to break his fast. And this is why, as narrated in Abu Dawood, in his Sunan, the Messenger ﷺ, when he saw a man in the shade and the people were covering him, and he asked what happened, and they said to the Messenger ﷺ that he's fasting. For the Messenger ﷺ, he said, لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصِّيَامِ فِي السَّفَرِ. He said, it is not from birr, it's not from piety to fast while traveling. But the Messenger ﷺ, when he saw the men who were isolating themselves from the people, doing nothing, and it was a day that was hot and will cause some kind of exhaustion, he said it is not from piety to fast while traveling, when he saw that they were finding it difficult. Okay? But this shows that there's 3 situations here. The first situation is if it causes him bearable hardship. If it causes him hardship, like it's still bearable, but it's causing him great hardship, then it's preferable for him to break his fast. It is more recommended, it's better for him to break his fast here. Because the whole point is a rukhsa. To break a fast as a traveler is a rukhsa. A rukhsa is to make things easy for you. So if you're going through hardship, then what is better? To choose the easier option, to take the rukhsa of breaking your fast. The second situation is if it causes him unbearable hardship. Here he must break his fast. If it's causing him unbearable hardship to the point it's harming him, then here he must break his fast. لا ضرر ولا ضرار. And the Messenger ﷺ says here, ليس من البر الصيام في السفر. About the situation of that man who was going through hardship when fasting, whilst fasting as a traveler, to the point that the people were covering him and trying to shade him. And the third case is if it does not cause him hardship, then here it is preferable to fast as previously mentioned. Okay? But what about if it's the case that both situations are the same? Yani, if he fasted or if he did not fast, it's the same to him. And they both are the same level. If a man, for example, asked us, Akhi, what is better for a traveler, to break the fast or to not break the fast? We will ask him, what is easier for you? If he says to us, both are the same. If I fast with the people, it's not a problem. And it's not difficult upon me. If I break my fast and make up later, this is also not a problem. And both are considered the same. Both situations are considered the same. So what's better in this situation? Some they say breaking the fast is better because breaking the fast is a concession. Okay? And when you look at the hadith that is in front of us, what did the Messenger ﷺ say? هي رخصة من الله فمن أخذ بها فحسن ومن أحب أن يصوم فلا جناح عليه. The hadith in front of us in Muslim. فلا جناح عليه. Where the Messenger ﷺ, he says here that it is a concession from Allah. Whoever takes it, فحسن, he has done well. And then he said, whoever likes to fast, فلا جناح, فلا جناح, there's no harm upon this. فلا جناح, there's no harm upon him. For if you look at this, the Messenger ﷺ, he said about breaking the fast whilst traveling, يعني فحسن. He said, it is a rukhsa min Allah, it's a concession from Allah, whoever takes it, it is good. This highlights it is better to break the fast because there's a praiseworthy description added to it. فحسن. Messenger ﷺ said, فحسن. That it is good, or he has done good. And another hadith, إن الله يحب أن تؤتى رخصة كما يكره أن تؤتى معصيته. Allah loves for his concessions to be taken. For in terms of breaking the fast, he said, ﷺ, it is good. In terms of fasting, he said there's no harm upon him because the obligation is lifted from him. For this, some of the scholars, they say this indicates the preference for breaking the fast. And some scholars, they say the opposite. Rather, it's better to fast rather than breaking the fast. Why? Because number one, bara dhimma. It clears one's responsibility. If you fast, your obligation is fulfilled. You don't have a debt upon you. You're not obliged for anything. And the apparent condition of the Messenger ﷺ was that he often fasted whilst traveling. For during the year of the conquest, when he left Medina, it is well known that the people of Medina and Mecca is a 10-day journey, right? And he fasted from Medina until he approached Mecca. He fasted during these 10 days. And once he approached Mecca, he broke his fast. For it was common for the Messenger ﷺ to fast whilst traveling. So that's why they say, yani, that's one of the reasons that they mention. Another reason they mention is because it coincides with a virtuous time. Okay? If a brother is fasting whilst traveling, when is he fasting? In Ramadan, right? Which is the best time for fasting. Like, if he breaks his fast, when does he have to make up for it? After the month of Ramadan. So they say it's preferable that he fasts because his fast is during a virtuous time. And the stronger opinion, wallahu a'lam, is we combine between both. Yani, the preferred ruling in regards to what is better, a person who, for him, is the same. He doesn't feel hardship in both situations. Yani, to break his fast or to not break his fast. What's better for him to do? We say what is better for him to do is to do both. to not remain in one state all the time when traveling. For sometimes break your fast and sometimes fast at other times. So for example, if I traveled at the beginning of Ramadan for Umrah and I fasted, then after a week I traveled back home. So I broke my fast. Here you gain the virtues mentioned by breaking your fast occasionally, and also the actions of the Messenger ﷺ of not breaking your fast as well. Okay, let me mention that example again. If I traveled at the beginning of Ramadan for Umrah, here I fasted in this travel. After a week, I came back home. This week that I came back home, I broke my fast. This is what is best. Instead of staying in one state of always breaking your fast when traveling, or always not breaking your fast when traveling, to combine between both. So sometimes break your fast and sometimes don't break your fast. By doing this, you have combined between the action of the Messenger ﷺ. For we see that the Messenger ﷺ sometimes fasted and sometimes he broke his fast as a traveler. For that is what seems the best option. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. فلعل we'll stop it here inshallah ta'ala. الله المستعان يعني بقي كثير. Tomorrow's the last day, right? Hatta even today I tried to summarize a bit due to time. لكن إن شاء الله تعالى we'll see tomorrow إن شاء الله تعالى. Try finish it بإذن الله تعالى. بارك الله في الجميع. وفقه الله في الجميع والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.